You see a world where there's no money for children who are hungry, there's no money for the sick, there's no money for housing for the homeless, but there's money for war. Every time they manage to find money for war. And this is the illusion and the delusion of the masses of living within the governance of Satan's realm, the Antichrist realm, and feeding it by feeding the politics, feeding the religions. You feed that infrastructure that claims to have no resources to feed sick, hungry, dying, innocent children, but has the resources to blow them up. And unless all of us take no thought, we're adding to that problem. Many young people, they're addicted to pornography, they're addicted to alcohol, their chemical balance, the alchemy is ruined. And it's a hard walk to rebalance it. I know, because I've been there. But once it's rebalanced and you become more powerful than you've ever been, and you can stare down on the Luciferians, and you can say you're nothing. You've got your wealth, you've got your power, and you've got your armies. But it's all dependent on the message of overcoming the lower nature remaining suppressed. Because it's all dependent on you keeping the masses locked inside that lower nature. And I believe in humanity. I believe in the strength of the individual. And if each of us, one by one, can take on the truest fight we can ever take on, and we can take our 5 stones and we can strike Goliath here. You can sacrifice, crucify your 5 senses, activate your pineal in meditation, and overcome your lower nature, overcome your fear, overcome your need to kneel down and ask someone else to do it for you. And instead kneel down and say, I'm going this way, please get behind me. God will be there.
Weapons always close to end, for he has seen too much hatred. Only weapon that he chooses is love, universal call, now for justice.
Hey guys, so I haven't spoken a great deal on the Bible recently, and I think it's because for myself, among other things, listening to myself speak about the Bible can be a good direction for people, but ultimately it's a signpost. This is how I hope for it to be, and it's a signpost for people to take action. I don't want to be a spiritual entertainer. I want to be someone who can perhaps be a catalyst, or at least to help people to awaken to that which Jesus Christ awoken to, that which the apostles awoken to, and to try and get people to take action. It's no use reading the instructions on how to build your flat pack furniture persistently whilst leaving the furniture inside the box. It will never get built. And this is a risk I see with a lot of people who are trying to teach spiritually online. It certainly takes another direction, and our carnal mind if our carnal mind needs entertaining, if the lion within you, the lower nature, needs entertaining, better it's with spiritual knowledge, by all means. But I don't want it to become a distraction, and it shouldn't be. I don't believe Bible studies are useful unless people take action from that. And judging from the state of the world, very few people out of the billions who call themselves Christian actually take action to alter their consciousness, to commune with God in the higher place, to surrender their 5 senses. And that action you must take is ultimately to take no thought. It's to go silent. It's to reach that place which I've started labeling the field. Now, I've said before in many videos that in biblical terms, in mysticism, the mystic side of the Bible, you have levels of consciousness. Now, if you move over to the Hindu scriptures, the Vedas, etc., and the language even of the persons who are teaching these things in a Kabbalistic way, which Kabbalistic means simply not written, just passed down verbally, they have words for different states of consciousness, but in our language, which is quite limited, we don't have any words for that. So they created a set code of words for this, and earth being the lowest level of consciousness, water being the next level, air the next level, fire, new mind. And these are the levels of consciousness, and your action is about getting into that higher realm of consciousness, to get into the air, into the fire. Now, if you can imagine the field, as I call it, there is a passage to get into the field, a little hole to allow you to pass through. Imagine a keyhole, just a round keyhole. And this is the entrance to the field, to the vastness that is the stillness of the field that Buddhists call nirvana. And whilst your brain is cycling in beta, in earth, your vehicle to pass through is this size. And as you kick it up a notch and you get to alpha, your vehicle becomes a little smaller. And as you kick it up a notch again and you get to air, your vehicle is just that little bit smaller. And when you get to fire, your vehicle is so small you can pass straight through that keyhole and you can go into the field. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to spend hours and hours in the field. It just means you need to get there to allow the messages to come to you from God, from the field, from the higher levels of consciousness. From the altered state of human consciousness is where we can commune best with God. And you do that by following the instructions of Jesus Christ, not by studying the stories. It helps. You should read them by all means, but taking action is much more important. Or as I say, your flat pack furniture doesn't get built by reading the instructions. Someday you've got to undo the packaging and get your tools out. And going into yourself and sitting in the stillness, not going to church, not reading the book, not watching me, but going into yourself and sitting patiently is where you begin to shrink your vehicle to the point it can pass through that keyhole into the field. And in that field, you can hear the messages passed on by God through and via your pineal, through the angles of light carrying photons, the photons which carry messages, angels, messengers of light. Angles of light, photons, messages, it's the same thing. But if you take no thought and you don't sacrifice your five senses, then you are not going to get any benefit from what I'm saying, is my belief. You're just going to be entertained and distracted by something that stirs something in you that might say, this sounds like truth to I. But if you don't go away and practice, there's no benefit. Now, I think over the course of my time presenting all of this and trying to share all of this information that I've learned whilst fasting and whilst savouring the sacred secretion of our human vehicle, which intensifies this process and puts you into that vehicle to pass through that keyhole very easily and effortlessly, because it gives you such a dominion over your lower nature when you can nurture it and return it to your hypothalamus and to trigger what needs to be triggered, so as you can move to the right hand of God and you can hear things from the collective, the collective mind, from the fully functional mind, from having the Ark of the Covenant, where the cherubim, the cerebrum, sit on either side of the hemisphere of the brain. You switch on the right hemisphere by doing that, and then you can hear God all you need to, and you can begin to flick between the esoteric and the literal. And this is important, massively important part if you wish to pursue the teachings of Jesus Christ. There are the other sides of it where you just need to, if you can do it, if you are just naturally a disciplined person and you can follow what he said, you can be good to people in every way he instructed without knowing that information, then you don't need to listen to myself either. I know people like that. But for many, they know what he is saying, but they have no way of finding the inner strength to pursue it and to live it. And this is where the problem herein lies. Now, taking no thought is ultimately surrendering your five senses. And the five senses can send you one way or the other. The five senses can make you fall just as Lucifer did. Lucifer, the origin of the word, is a star, a five-pointed star nonetheless. And if you look to the Bible, you'll see at the point where Jesus begins to tell people to take no thought, he tells you to take no thought 5 times. For in taking no thought, you surrender your 5 senses. You sacrifice, or you crucify in Christian terms, your 5 senses. And in doing that, you can ascend to God even if for a moment, even if for 5 seconds. At least it's enough time for the message to get in to tell you which way to go to best be your highest good to God on that day, on that week, on that month, in this lifetime. Now, same as Jesus says, take no thought 5 times, which is repetition in a numerical sense, which is something which is done in mysticism. It is not an arguable thing. This is something that mystic writers have always done. But the 5 represents the 5 senses. One of my dogs is here, it's the noise. The 5, take no thought 5 times, represents crucifying your 5 senses to ascend to the Lord. But if you look at the fall of Lucifer, 5 times, there are pledges that come out of this. And ultimately that is the 5 going in the other direction. The fall of man is where you say to God, I want this to be how I want it to be. Your ego, your animal nature, your Goliath, your... my torch came on automatically. Your Goliath, your lion in the story of Samson, your Minotaur if you go to Greek mythology. And this is why it is done. 5 times a pledge is said within the fall of Lucifer, and 5 times Jesus says, take no thought, to crucify, ultimately to crucify your 5 senses. And this is why, again, the Bible shows you that Jesus had to be wounded 5 times on the cross. The man, Jesus, who was the Son of God, did not become the Christ until he was wounded 5 times. His 5 senses died on the cross. 1 in each hand, 1 in each foot, 1 in the ribs. And as the one in the ribs went in, water came out. He began to rise through those levels of consciousness. And the problem is most people are stuck in that bottom earth level of consciousness. And this is why we see a world run by the Antichrist. We see a world of preachers that sometimes preach hate in the name of Jesus Christ. You see a world where there's no money for children who are hungry. There's no money for the sick. There's no money for housing for the homeless. But there's money for war. Every time they manage to find money for war. And this is the illusion and the delusion of the masses of living within the governance of Satan's realm, the Antichrist realm, and feeding it by feeding the politics, feeding the religions. You feed that infrastructure that claims to have no resources to feed sick, hungry, dying, innocent children, but has the resources to blow them up. And unless all of us take no thought, we're adding to that problem. For nobody wants to be oppressed. Nobody wants to be controlled by this Antichrist system. No one wants the Freemasons. No one wants the governments. No one wants the man, the fat cats, the capitalists, some of them are calling it, which is ridiculous as I've spoken of in my recent videos. These elitist families, whether they were socialist or capitalist, are Luciferian oppressors. They are the ones who have said to God, I'm doing it my way, because I've got enough material wealth to do it. But their material wealth would not be enough to do it unless the people below them that they maneuver and control with that material wealth are stuck and overcome by their Goliath, by their lower nature, by their lion. You see, so long as the masses dwell within the lower nature, those who follow the path of Lucifer can always control them. Always. And thus the fight begins with each individual. To stare that lion in the eyes and to say, okay, it's on. It's going to be horrible. There's going to be times where you torture me, where I want to stop drinking this, I want to stop eating this, I want to stop indulging in this behavior. You're going to torture me. You're going to unbalance my body, as my body has already become unbalanced by pursuing this life within the lion. To look the lion in the eye and to beat it, and later its carcass be found with what inside? Honey. Because you made it to the land, the promised land flowing with milk and honey. Through against all the odds and against all of the battles, and fleeing the weakness of your lower nature, and at the same time the power of your lower nature. You return in meditation, your sacred secretion. You trigger your pituitary, you trigger your pineal. One secretes serotonin, one secretes DMT, amber and milk and honey. And you commune with God. You commune with Him because your energy centers are balanced. And you're standing in line, a fully functional human being. Not a weakling who must drink alcohol, who must smoke cigarettes, who must take drugs, who must watch movies every day, who must play this, who must do that, who must depend upon some creation of the elitists for their happiness, be it lifestyle, be it substance. But someone strong who can stand alone in nature and say, I am happy here right now, and I'm ready. I'm ready to serve God. And I'm ready to fight for the freedom that this planet lacks under the control of Luciferian leaders who bomb us, who starve us, who create such inequality, who sacrifice us. Because you'll be awake to them, you'll see them. But you can't do it by following the 99%. If everybody's watching TV at night and you want to do something original, something that stops the inequality, something that stops the problems, you've got to switch it off. And if your lower mind starts tormenting you, you've got to be strong and you've got to face it. You've got to let it torment you until it stops and it becomes your friend. You see, it's no good sitting, listening to people speak of spirituality online and speak of this and 10 ways to do this, 10 ways to do that, unless you're going to take action and align yourself with the needs and the wants for your life from God. Many of us, our minds are programmed, we need distraction, we need entertainment, and so be it, let it be spiritual. That's the blessing of spiritual speakers on YouTube. But it's also the curse. Because sometimes we flip from one light reality to another. And that's great if it stimulates you, but that's why I'm making this video, because I don't want people to watch me to be entertained. I want you to go away, I want you to go to the beach, go to a cliff, go to the forest. I want you to go in your bedroom and just sit quietly and wait for God to come and tell you, go this way, go that way. Get quiet and listen and let Him speak. because we need it. And by we, I mean the people who have gone quiet, have let it speak, and have ended up doing what I'm doing. Things like I am, trying to alleviate the suffering of these children, which have been exposed to the very worst of Lucifer's ways, and the humans who follow the Luciferian path, who fall by trying to live their life outside of the will of God. They live their life from their carnal mind. They live their life from their lion. They live their life from their Goliath. And they hurt and they harm. And if you can have your buttons pushed, if you can have your buttons pushed by the elite, and you have weaknesses that allow you to go into your lower nature, then the only way you're going to stop the elite, the only way you're going to stop false flag attacks, the only way you're going to stop the wars, the oppression, the inequality, the injustice, the suffering, the poverty, the lies, is to go today and start dancing with your lion and mastering it. Because then all the technology, media, news reports, false flag events, wars, all of these things cannot trigger you into your emotions and make you a controllable animal, because you've conquered your lower nature. And they rely on you not. They rely on you responding to this stuff. They rely on you getting angry. Because that's where you're at your least functional. But if you get into the field, if you raise up and get into the field, you can manifest like you can't believe. Believe me, I've seen it. And if you don't want to believe me, and you don't feel I have the credentials to speak or to ask you to do that, then believe Jesus. Take no thought for your life. What does that possibly mean? It means get quiet. It means crucify your five senses in meditation. So as that photon, which is ultimately a message traveling on an angle of light, the angel messages of God, can come to you and direct you and tell you right now, this day, you can go this way. And because you were quiet enough to hear it, all of this can manifest. If I had not been quiet enough that day, all of Share Tanzania would not exist. While you're staring at the TV, getting angry about the Illuminati, getting angry about the Freemasons, getting angry about the false flags, and not being quiet enough, or you're distracted perhaps by what pointless media or spiritual media, what turning might you have missed because you weren't exposing yourself to His light? Imagine if I had missed my turning. Imagine I had a mind that was too busy and cluttered and worrying about tomorrow and yesterday, and had not noticed the 11:11 that brought me here. I shudder to think what would have happened to some of these children. I live with a presumption God would have found another person to fill my boots, but I also live with hope in that, because as I look around me, the reinforcements are not so thick and fast on the ground, shall we say. And I can only presume it's because the Luciferians, the Luciferian leaders, and the Luciferian ideals, doctrine, and pursuit of living life outside of the will of God, outside of the love and the nurturement that is Christ, outside of the respect and the connection for Mother Nature and your brothers and sisters that just some people think are just trees without reason, without meaning. without love and gratitude for the water that is you. That this alternative way, this Luciferian way, has imprisoned so many minds that for all hearts might be singing and screaming to do something about it, they can't get past this, because this decides which way a person goes. So if you're going to do anything, to take anything out of what I speak on esoterics, and that which I've learned, and how I've learned to interpret the scriptures whilst fasting, whilst nurturing the sacred secretion, whilst nurturing the Christ seed, and returning it in crucifixion to Golgotha, the place of the skull, by surrendering my five senses and saying, I don't need you right now. If you take anything from it, then take that you should sit quietly and let all these things be experienced to you directly instead of through my videos. Take action. Stop reading your instructions, stop watching the how-to videos, and take action. Because if I can do all this, you can do it all. And I can only presume the reason it's not happening more is because not enough people are taking action. And rightly so, when we've got a planet so governed by stupid political ideals that make no sense, lying politicians in every which way, shape or form, religions that don't tell people to take no thought, for all the very religion it's built around is telling you, the teacher is telling you within that religion to take no thought. No wonder. Because we're up against it. But you must simply obey the teachings of that man and walk with love and respect for this planet and take no thought, so the big guy can let you know which way on any given day is the best way for you to go to be of your highest good on this planet. And the lion doesn't necessarily need to be a snarling beast. It can be just be that quiet, doubting voice in your mind. I can't do that. I can't do this. That's your lion whispering to you. Just tap it on the nose and say, hey, be quiet now. I'm busy manifesting my highest good here. And you're spoiling it for us. But the more you plug into the earthly realm of consciousness, which is controlled by these Luciferians, the louder your lying will be. And the less chance you have of coming from beta to alpha to theta to delta to your new mind and passing through that keyhole and into the field, where you'll rest happily on the chest of God while He gently tells you what it is He needs you to do. There is hope on this planet, but the hope dwells in each individual's ability to overcome. Each individual's ability to be their own Samson. Each individual's ability to be their own David and slay that Goliath. Each individual's ability to flee the presence of the lower mind, Egypt, and their own ego, the Pharaoh, cross the emotions, the Red Sea, and reach the promised land flowing with milk and honey. We can all do it. But if you just keep not taking action, then your flat pack furniture will stay in the box for the rest of your life, but you'll know those instructions inside out. Much love, guys. God bless.